Today's number 47 most urgent vulnerability is CVE 2026-48362 in Adobe ColdFusion. And the reason it earns a deep dive is simple. This is a perfect 10.0 critical issue that can lead to arbitrary code execution. Welcome to the Daily Ranked CVE Brief. What to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal from CISA KEV, first EPSS, and CVSS every day. This one is not marked as known exploited in the supplied CISA KEV data, so we are not calling it active exploitation. But with a network-reachable command injection pattern, no required user interaction, and a high-impact score, defenders should treat it as a priority exposure question. Where is ColdFusion running? Who can reach it? And has Adobe's advisory been applied? CVE 2026-48362 affects Adobe ColdFusion. The official description says ColdFusion is affected by improper neutralization of special elements used in an OS command. In other words, OS command injection, and that exploitation could result in arbitrary code execution in the context of the current user. The weakness category is CVE-78. In plain English, that means software is building or invoking an operating system command, but it does not safely neutralize special characters or elements that can change how that command is interpreted. When that boundary fails, attacker-controlled input can stop being just data and start influencing what the operating system is asked to run. The key point for defenders is not the exact code path, which the provided data does not include. It is the class of failure, application layer input reaching an operating system command boundary. Verdict: a CVSS 10.0 means this should be handled as emergency class risk wherever exposed systems exist. The two metrics that matter most here are reachability and friction. The vector says attack vector is network, attack complexity is low, privileges required are none, and user interaction is none. Put plainly, the scoring model says an attacker does not need a local foothold, does not need an account, and does not need to trick a user into clicking something. The other important signal is that scope is changed. That means the impact can cross a security boundary from the vulnerable component into something beyond its normal authority model. Combined with high confidentiality, integrity, and availability impact, the score reflects the possibility of full compromise effects, data exposure, unauthorized modification, and service disruption. The supplied data says this CVE is not on CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. That matters because KEV is one of the strongest public signals that exploitation has been observed. So we should not overstate the case. This brief is not claiming a known campaign, a botnet, malware activity, or exploitation in the wild. None of that is provided. But absence from KEV is not the same as safety. The EPSS percentile is 0.79813, which places it high relative to many tracked vulnerabilities in terms of predicted exploitation likelihood. When that probability signal meets a perfect CVSS score and a remotely reachable, no interaction command injection class, the defensive decision becomes straightforward. Verify exposure quickly and remediate before the gap becomes an incident. Conceptually, the dangerous path looks like this. A remote attacker reaches a ColdFusion-facing service over the network. Some part of the application or platform processes input and eventually uses values near an operating system command boundary. If special elements are not properly neutralized, the operating system may interpret attacker-influenced data as part of a command, rather than harmless text. The official description says arbitrary code execution could occur in the context of the current user, which is an important limitation and an important risk. It means the immediate privileges depend on the account context under which the affected ColdFusion process is running. If that account has broad file, network, or system permissions, the blast radius grows. Defenders do not need exploit syntax to act on this. Reduce reachability, reduce privilege, patch, and monitor for abnormal command execution behavior. To determine whether you are affected, start with inventory. Find every Adobe ColdFusion instance, not only production. Include development, staging, disaster recovery, forgotten virtual machines, and externally hosted systems. Then determine which of those instances are reachable from the internet, from partner networks, or from lower trust internal segments. For exact affected versions and update guidance, defer to Adobe's advisory for APSB 2690. The supplied data does not include version numbers, so do not rely on guesses or informal matching. Also check how ColdFusion is deployed, what account it runs as, what file shares it can access, what databases or internal services it can reach, and whether administrative or management functions are exposed more broadly than intended. The exposure question is not only do we run ColdFusion, it is can untrusted traffic reach it, and what could the current user context access if abused. Your first remediation step is to follow Adobe's official security advisory and apply the recommended update or mitigation for CVE 2026-48362. If patching cannot happen immediately, reduce risk while you schedule the change. Restrict access to ColdFusion services to trusted networks only, remove unnecessary public exposure, and ensure administrative interfaces are not broadly reachable. Review the service account running ColdFusion and apply least privilege. It should not have more operating system, file system, or network access than the application truly needs. Use layered controls as temporary support, such as segmentation, strict allow listing, and additional inspection at the edge, but do not treat those as a replacement for the vendor fix. Finally, document where the issue was found and when each instance was remediated, because ColdFusion estates often include older or non-production systems that escape normal patch cycles. For detection, focus on behavior that should be rare or absent in your environment. Watch process telemetry for ColdFusion or its runtime spawning unexpected operating system child processes. Monitor for unusual outbound network connections from ColdFusion servers, especially to destinations that are not part of normal application behavior. Review web and application logs for abnormal request patterns, repeated errors, or unusual parameter values around the time of suspicious activity, without assuming any single string is definitive. File integrity monitoring can help flag unexpected changes in web directories, temporary locations, application folders, or scripts associated with the service account. Also establish what normal looks like, which scheduled jobs run, which child processes are expected, what outbound destinations are normal, and which directories change during routine operations. If you find anomalies, preserve logs, isolate carefully, and investigate the current user context, because the official description ties execution to that user's privileges. To recap, CVE 2026-48362 is a critical Adobe ColdFusion OS command injection vulnerability, categorized as CWE78 with a perfect CVSS 10.0 score. The supplied data says it is not on CISA KEV, so we are not claiming confirmed exploitation. But the combination of network reachability, no required credentials, no user interaction, changed scope, and a high EPSS percentile makes this a Patch Now item for exposed environments. Check Adobe's advisory for exact affected versions and remediation instructions. Inventory every ColdFusion instance, reduce exposure, enforce least privilege, and monitor for abnormal process and network behavior. If this helped you decide what to patch first, subscribe to the Daily Ranked CVE Brief. The full ranked report is linked in the description.